Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Believe Productions podcast. This is your friend, Rick Losey, and welcome. Hello, hello, everyone. This is Rick Losey coming to you with the first Believe Productions podcast. And we're very excited to launch this Believe experience with our friend Mr. Bubba Startz. Bubba, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Rick. This is a pleasure to be on the other side of the microphone as we have it.
We're so excited to have everyone to join us. Our our relationship goes back a little ways, going back to the Deadwood days of the Black Hills and all of that creative circle that we were all a part of back then. And we were so fortunate to kind of collaborate and cultivate, a lot of things out of that time. And then, of course, our roads have gone on different journeys since then. And Believe Productions now is at a point where we're getting ready to do a lot of things. And one of the things that I really had been thinking about wanting to do was create this podcast. And you have been doing a similar thing. And I have been observing a lot of the stuff you've been doing. And I couldn't think of a better person to be the first guest to join our Believe family on our podcast. So I just kind of would like you to kind of share with everybody a little bit about, maybe where we were at and how we got to know each other and kind of where your journey has led you to where you are now and what you're doing for yourself and to help others.
Awesome. Well, Rick, I just want to thank you for jumping into the deep end of podcasting here with us. And I'll tell you, the water's warm right now. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Bubba Startz. I grew up in Deadwood, South Dakota, where I met Rick, and still a resident of South Dakota these days. About 8 months ago, I started the Scene Projects podcast and community to focus on supporting songwriters, of which I am one myself, but supporting all of my other songwriting friends and putting their stuff out into the world. It's been a wild journey these last 8 months. The podcast has over 100 episodes cut and shot already. We're moving into a lot more video production, broadcast quality. I mean, these shows look like TV, and that's the way that we treat our programming. We have a very forward-thinking model, understanding that traditional media, by all intents and purposes, is dead. That's not how people consume information anymore off of the TV. We see it for what it is. It is mostly a propaganda machine at this point. So I think in that instance, we have launched our own podcast because we were trusted in our field of music, and we're finding that people trust us with a lot of other things as well. So it's led into creating the South Dakota Patriot Broadcasting Network as well to focus more on political and business content, but to pretty much just make shows about everything that interests me. And for you, I'm sure it's much of the same. You want to talk to interesting people and have inspiring conversations. That's how it started, and it's going so well. I have no plans of stopping anytime soon, and I'm just so thrilled to be where we're at, to be where we're at in this time in history, but also at this time in my life. I don't know that the success that we're writing right now is possible without the work I've done on myself, without the growth I've had as a human being, to be able to handle the massive workload that, running three or four networks at the same time and keeping up with the incredible amount of content that we're releasing. It wouldn't be possible without faith and without believing. So I appreciate you having me on the podcast today. And yeah, for the launch of the Believe podcast, I couldn't think of a better pair of guys to kind of kick this thing off.
So you know, obviously to get to where you are, with all the gifts that you have and what you're doing right now, for all of us, it kind of had to all start at some point. So I kind of just want to go with you and go back a little ways if we can. Can you take me back to like when you were really little? Where was it? What struck a chord with you? What did you hear? What did you see? What struck a chord with you to say, man, I really want to play music or I really want to do this?
Well, I think it's kind of similar to your story a little bit, and I got to know you on our podcast, and we kind of dove in. But it started with the family. Both my dad and my uncle play guitar. They've played guitar my whole life. My grandma used to play the accordion at Christmas time, which is very poignant for the time that we're shooting this podcast. She would pass out all the sheet music, and we would sing carols in the living room together, and it wasn't an option not to participate. So I really don't know anything different other than sharing music and singing and then learning to play guitar when I was, maybe 12 years old and really falling in love with that instrument in particular. There is something magical about six strings on a piece of wood that they call a guitar and the human voice. The way that the two of them together can tell a story really spoke to me from a very early age. I was maybe 13 or 14 when I wrote my first song, and I just haven't ever looked back, Rick. I'm 38 now. I've been playing music professionally in bars and on big stages and small stages for 20 something years now. So I've really only done this. I did pick up some trades along the way. I've been a welder and I've been a landscaper and I've done just about any of the manual labor jobs that one can pick up with almost no experience. But I've never lost my love of music and I've never lost my love of connecting with other human beings. And just my vessel happens to be, music and podcasting now.
What was the first song?
Oh, I don't know if I remember the first song. There's a few early ones that really struck a chord. Share a story I share a lot is the first time I heard Under the Bridge by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I can remember the time of day, the weather outside. I was with my mom in her van, our Ford Aerostar van. We were heading down to the river where her dad had a slip. That's where the boat was. He spent a lot of time down there. We were on our way down there, and the first few notes struck. The rain was coming down, and it was the most powerful thing up to that point that I've ever heard. And since then, I've always had a love for rock music and storytelling. I grew up those early days of grunge music and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and a lot of these bands, and they weren't afraid of their emotions. They weren't afraid of being who they were. And I think that as I grew up, we got less and less of that in especially popular music, where it all just became a product. Everything became a product to sell, and everything needed to be very middle of the road and the same message and the same. It's just more of the same. Everything was cellophane wrapped and delivered like that. And to me, that's not what music is. Music is about telling stories. It's about the human experience. That's what I write about. I write about my experience. And now I'm so fortunate with the scene projects that I get to share the music of my friends and my fellow songwriters out there that are telling their stories. And it's our human experience, it's our shared human experience, and the experiences that while we have as individuals that other people have had, that's what connects us. That's what lets us see ourselves in others. That's what lets us see. I know you're very religious and faith, a man of faith. It lets us see, God, or it lets us see Jesus in others, right? I don't know that there's a better way to connect. And the fact that you have all of these different religions around the world that use music to convey the message that drives that home even more.
Right. Um, I remember one time our friend Ricky Jacobson, God bless him, who's passed on, but a lot of the people in your circle that'll be hearing this will maybe remember Ricky. But I remember Ricky said something to me one time about music that just really hit me, and I never ever forgot it. And he said, Rick, he said, the thing about music is that you can either find yourself or lose yourself. And I was like, wow, how profound, I was like, you
And it serves both of those purposes, right? And it can serve both of those purposes simultaneously. One song can in itself help you lose yourself and then find yourself again. So yeah, the great Ricky Jacobson dropping wisdom on us as he always did, and may God bless his soul. I know that, the energy that Ricky was, I carry a little bit of that with me. We have several other friends from that community that have passed on in the music business. Most notably here recently, my good friend Steve Thorpe, who
know,
was quite possibly the most influential man on my music career. He's the first person that put me on stage at Biff Malibu's way back when for an open mic back in the days of internet cafes, and
uh,
it was multiple lifetimes ago now. But I really loved Steve Thorpe and the way that he supported not just me, but every songwriter that he came in contact with. He used to write for our arts magazine called Panache. When that went away, he picked up for the Rapid City Journal. And, I have write ups and I have his words, immortalized with me speaking about my songs. And I wanted to, maybe without knowing it, I didn't know that he was sick this year, but maybe I was picking up on that energy and those reverberations that he left behind. And as he was ready to pass on, that mission became my mission, right? The thing that he had set out for his entire life to accomplish and to keep pushing for. I have picked up that mantle, and I'm going to carry this for as long as it's necessary, Rick. It really is a passion of mine to support the other songwriters and to support the scene. I mean, that's how we came up with the name, is that we just talked about how South Dakota, it doesn't have a cohesive scene. We have so much talent and so many players and so many places to play and amazing venues, but there was no one thing to connect it all. And then realizing that it's not just a South Dakota problem. Those things and those communities and those magazines and all of these things in the arts, they've gone away across the Midwest. So, I say that our coverage area with the scene projects is from the Great Lakes to the Rocky Mountains and from, Canada to Mexico and well beyond. I mean, our reach is worldwide. The beauty of podcasting, the beauty of the internet now, we get to connect. We have Facebook pages and Facebook groups for all the things that we do. So it's interactive, it's engaging. We want people to not just listen to us, but to come and converse with us. I would have a conversation with any one of our fans or your fans for our podcast and to get to know them, because that's what informs our human experience. That's what gives us compassion. That's what gives us empathy, is listening to others and relating that to our own experience. And podcasting has given us a vessel for that. And I couldn't be more proud and more honored to be exactly where I'm at right now, to be someone who has this vessel now, this broadcast signal to launch up into the sky and to call out to other people that are needing that same community and that same connection.
yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Bubba, about the whole excitement aspect. I couldn't agree with you more because I'm excited about what you're doing. I'm excited about what we're doing and about how that all is going to just kind of create the ripple effect, for how you're affecting others. Speaking of a ripple effect, I know you had kind of talked about your recent exciting weekend you had in Minneapolis and in the Twin Cities with kind of bringing all of your fellow musicians together. You want to just kind of share a little bit about all that?
Yeah, well, and that's the future. That's the future of the scene projects and everything that I wanted to done. I feel like we finally reached the pinnacle. So we live in Tyndall, South Dakota, so we're about an hour and a half southwest of Sioux Falls. But we made the trip up to St. Paul, Minnesota this weekend. I had booked some shows with some small bars up there for my band Starts and Ends. We were very fortunate to catch a couple of gigs in a big city where nobody knows you, but I have some connections and some people stuck their neck out for me. And then on Sunday, I got the bar to open their stage to us to invite all of our fellow Midwest Country Music Organization members and to have about 8 of them up on stage with us to perform their own songs. So, one of these shows within the show for the Scene Projects, because it is more network than just one show. We call it the Songwriter Showcase. Every week in Sioux Falls, we host a weekly episode where we film with one songwriter or a pair, and we get to share their music out with the world every week and share a few of their stories about the songs they've written and who they are. And all I did was kind of take that on the road and to do it just in a marathon setting. So instead of having just one show, I sat down on stage all day and interviewed, 8 of my friends and listened to their music. And I cried and I laughed and I shared this big love that I have and this stage that I've been able to put myself on with some really talented people. We shot it all on broadcast quality HD video, and it just looks and sounds beautiful. And we know that this is the future of what we're doing, to continue to travel and to bring out the songwriters from the areas that we're traveling in and to showcase them for not just a handful of people that might be at the show that day, but to the whole world at large. And what we've done in the last week or so is to not only do we have our own community, but we're tapping into other larger communities, whether it's having someone on the podcast who has a large online following, or it is tapping into communities like the Viking World Order. I am a new Vikings fan, as I have rescinded my Chicago Bears fandom for greener pastures and a functional franchise, to put it eloquently. And that's kind of the approach I'm taking to my life now, right? I don't want to associate myself with losers, to put it frankly. We want to work with people that are trying to advance their lives, with people that are trying to get better every single day as human beings, as artists, as songwriters. Those are the people that we want to work with. Those are the people that we've been connected with. So in some ways, I'm leaving a lot of stuff behind. I've made the offer to a multitude of South Dakota songwriters to get them on our shows and to have them. And some have reached out and got it, and some have, dove in with us, and others have just not returned our phone calls. So instead of waiting here and beating my head against the door, waiting for them to catch up to the big waves that we're making, well, we're moving on. I have friends all over this country that I am interested in showcasing them. We have the vessel now with the Songwriter Showcase, and there's no stopping us. This thing is about to blow up, Rick, and I'm so happy that I get to be a part of, your community now, and to help you grow your community with possibly, posting your podcast on our network and growing it that way, so that you're not alone, so that you have someone to support you in this team and this community to kind of land in, instead of starting from square one. And that's really our plan for moving forward as a whole. I am myself in a larger podcast network called the C-Suite Network, where our podcast will be featured on their things, and they're doing things that are going straight to television on CNBC, and they're getting played on Delta flights on the, first class, the back of the seat, right? On those things. So we're really tapped into some great stuff, and I'm so glad that you gave me the opportunity to come on today and to talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can share the enthusiasm and the excitement. And one little personal thing, if you would allow me the opportunity, obviously on your journey here and where you've gotten to be, this includes the beautiful partner in your life that you have now. And am I correct? You did write a love song, is that right?
Oh, and I've written a few, but yeah, my song for Danielle, called True Meaning, is just real. I wrote it after one night that we were hanging out at the bar. It was probably for a show, and we probably had too much to drink, and the next day I wasn't my best version of myself. And that night I wasn't the best version of myself. And I kind of woke up the next day, and instead of just telling my wife I'm sorry, knowing how much music means to her and how much having a song to explain the feelings that I was feeling and to let her know that she is my world and then that nothing that I'm doing in my life now is possible without her. So I appreciate you bringing that song up. It will be recorded in just not even 10 days. I think I got the studio time reserved, and that's one of the ones that's on the list to be recorded this time around, and then to share it with the world next year is what I really want to do, is to get the original music out now. I've been playing other people's music most of my life. I've always written and I've always shared pieces of, who we are and pieces of my songs, but now I really want to focus on just sharing original music and sharing our story with people. So we're actually taking a this kind of road show with the Songwriter Showcase and Starts and Ends, and also another band who's got a pretty massive following online. They're called the Devin Worley Band out of Minneapolis. They're going on the road with us and kind of headlining the show and allowing Starts and Ends to build a following through them, and also the podcast to support the local songwriters in the area. I mean, really, Rick, it's just this summer's going to be a beautiful, so much synergy going on, connecting all the dots, connecting our people with the markets that we're currently working in, and some of them that we're really trying to break into, not just for this year, but for the rest of our careers.
So I think we're going to have some, I really feel like we're going to have some pretty exciting stuff coming up in the next year and for us to keep in touch about. But are there, what are the avenues that you want people to know about to keep in touch with you and keep up with what you have going on? What information do you want to leave with everybody? And can you also just kind of what kind of a message would you like to leave everybody with?
Well, I will go ahead and plug the website, thesceneprojects.com. That's where you can find all of our writing. I mean, I'm writing a lot of articles. It's not just a podcast. We're writing about the people that we find intriguing as well. So we have that. If you want to find out more about the band, at startsandends.com. Starts is Startz, ANDZ, or ANDENDZ rather. So yeah, we stayed consistent with the Z's on that. You can find out more about the band there. We're on all the social media things. I got a lot of great material, live show footage on YouTube, on the Starts and Ends YouTube. But thesceneprojects.com is really where you find all of it kind of housed under one umbrella. And one message that I would like to leave with everybody, and to not steal your tagline, but it is to believe, to never stop believing, and to never stop working. To believe is one thing, but I've gotten to where I am here because I wake up at 5 a.m. every day since I left the factory, and I've continued to work that same schedule and to attack my business and my future with the same vigor that you would wake up and to go to work to provide a living for your family with. And it was kind of those 5 years of factory work and going, if I can motivate myself to wake up and go make someone else money for a fraction of that, I think my value is much higher, and I'm willing to take a chance now and maybe have a little less money for a year and to get my finances in order so I can survive that, to to take a chance on something much bigger. And in 2025, your community and my community are going to get to watch us live that out in real time, Rick. It's going to be such a blessing to go and live the dream that I've had for the last year. I mean, I see them every night. Every night when I go to bed, the spirit world is calling to me and is laying these things out as I move through life. And then I get to go and life is all deja vu at this point, Rick. It is a dream surrounding me every single day, and I want other people to come into it, and I'd love to help them achieve that for themselves in any way I possibly can.
Oh, you totally can steal my line because we that's what we want to do is we want to spread that, and as we bring this to a close, I just want to thank you for kind of jumping on board with the Believe train. And I just want everybody that is listening to this or that is tuning into this to feel the excitement of what you're sharing and what we're all sharing with everybody else. And we want everybody to just kind of jump on the board and be a part of what we got going on. And like you said, to be a part of a team that is helping to inspire others.
What
And
we say here, Rick, is thanks for making yourself part of the scene.
right, right, absolutely. And I always tell everybody, always remember that you always have to believe, right? Because if you don't believe, how can you expect anybody else to, you know?
You got it exactly right, Rick. Thanks so much for having me on the program today.
Absolutely. And best of luck with everything that you have going on, my friend. And I know for sure this is not going to be the last time that we're going to be sharing with everybody. So, God bless to you and all that you have going on. And we will see you out on the road.
Thanks, Rick.